So, the projects. I know a lot of you have a lot of questions about them. We've done Project A last week, and the goal was to solve a lot of the technical difficulties that you will have with the projects. Hopefully, most of them are behind us, and we can now focus on more interesting projects. No doubt there will be more technical difficulties, but I think we've solved 95% of them if you have successfully submitted Project A. So now Project B this week and the coming week, the next one. This is a project that you will do with 3 partners, so a total of 4 students together. And this introduces a new dimension, a new difficulty for you. Difficulty of group dynamics, a difficulty of finding a partner, finding a topic, and coordinating your work all together. So we're definitely learning, and this is part of the learning process. It's very important that you learn to program, not just for yourself, but program in a group as well, because that's how most software is actually developed. It's most of the time you're programming with other people, and you are also picking up code that wasn't written by you to modify it. And this is true even if you do mathematics research. I collaborate on a software project that involves hundreds of mathematicians. We're building something like an alternative to Mathematica, if you want, or to MATLAB, free and open source. It's written in Python. And this involves really hundreds of mathematicians editing each other's code, improving on it. And you can imagine all the difficulties that can come from having that many people working together. Now, so the technical difficulties are behind us, except for the difficulty relating to the size of a group. Okay, so how do you find a partner? How do you work efficiently with them? And so on and so on. I think in week 4, we started looking at how to use the wiki, how to use the discussion forums to help all that. These were good first steps, but we're still far from something very efficient to find a partner. Let me explain this. In week 4, I saw a lot of students submit a profile, like I had asked them, listing their email, their name, their information, interests, etc. But then, at the end, they put a line saying, if you have any idea for a project, email me. I don't think that's a good way to do things. This is going to be a nightmare to synchronize when you have 4 students. I mean, what will you do? Will you send when you will have 4 students in a project? What would you do as an individual? Would you send emails to all the students saying that? But it becomes a nightmare to handle, I'm sure, for all of us. I mean, how many emails will be exchanged this way? Much, much more efficient would be if individuals who have ideas submit those ideas on the discussion forums, and then those ideas are improved by others who join, who are interested in this, and the groups evolve naturally from the discussions on the forum. I think that would be a much more efficient way of doing things. So if you have an idea, post it. That's my main message there. Now, there are still a lot of questions that I need to answer, a lot of questions that you might have. So one question might be about the grades. How will that work? When do you have to submit stuff, and how will it be graded? Well, in the wiki, I document the things that I will use, the grading, the aspects that I will use to give a final grade to your project, like originality, for instance, documentation, and things like that. I can't emphasize enough that my focus will actually not be on the code. The code will come last in my evaluation. The first things I'll look at is the text you wrote and the actual reasoning you went through to produce the code in the end. The second thing I'll look at is the documentation of your code. And the third thing, the final thing, is actually the code itself. I'll never get to the code if I have no idea what you're doing. So you should really document it first with text, then with code comments, and finally write good code. This is really the ordering that I'll use when I grade. It's very important that you understand that. Now, to make sure that you're producing interesting projects and that you're using the right techniques to do this, there will be a half-mark discussion about your project. I'll explain to you how this will work, but basically at half-mark, after 1 week out of the 2, I will give you some feedback on what you have done so far. And I'll try to give you good hints to launch you in the good direction to improve what you're already doing or to correct mistakes that you have started doing. All right, so another important question is, where do the topics come from? I know this is difficult for you to think of a topic, and it's difficult to find it. It's difficult to just imagine what's possible. But that's really what we want to learn also with this course. It's programming in Python for something that interests you. So you have to make this link between what is interesting to you and programming in Python. So if you like music, I'm perfectly fine if you suggest something that has to do with music. Actually, I would encourage you to do things like that. So if you have a hobby or something that you care about, please try to include this also in your homework or in your projects. Sorry. And if you feel that it would be too simple or too uninteresting or whatever, that's what the half mark interaction with me or the half mark feedback is for, is that I can reorient a tiny bit your project idea to make it something that's truly interesting for more people. So that's a basic suggestion leading you to finding a project. Now, still, even with this information, it's still very difficult, I know, to think of a project. So to help you, in this week particularly, I've tried to give you more guidance about the kind of projects that would be possible. So in order to do this, given that we're looking at files this week, and in the next week we'll look at how to produce graphs that display data, it's quite natural that some of the projects that would be accessible to you already would have to do with data and how to present data. So we'll see a few examples of those projects, a few suggestions, and you're welcome to take them, tweak them a little bit, and come up with your own project, what's really your own project, based on some original idea that was given to you. So this is just this week some suggestions. Now, there's two more things I want to say about the projects. The first one is that I highly encourage reuse of previous work. So if you have done a good project B, you liked it, you didn't have time to go as far as you liked, you're welcome to immediately, right away, propose a new topic for project C that just goes further in one direction. Of course, you will have to change the group, so you have to rally other people around your idea to find partners. But that's fine. I mean, at the same time, your other project B partners will come up with a new suggestion going in a different direction, and so on and so on. So I really hope that you can build on each other's projects to eventually build really interesting things. But this will only be possible if you really make an effort to document what you're doing, because from project to project, the groups developing the software will actually change quite a bit. Now, with all this information, it only makes sense that I suggest to you to think long term. Think of an actually quite difficult project that you would like to achieve over the coming weeks, and try to break it into smaller pieces that you can approach one after the other. So if you have some really cool idea, but it would be way too much work to do 4 people in 2 weeks, well, maybe 4 people in 8 weeks would be a much better match. So split it up into 4s, and whoever knows how to do what can join the project, and you can move further much quicker that way. So really, if you have a crazy idea, why don't you say it on the forum, and maybe others will want to join, others will want to break it up, and others will want to work on it with you.